Warning, the Jeremy Hansen Show discusses adult topics with adult language, societal decay, toxic femininity, righteous masculinity. This is a pro-men's, pro-family, pro-quit being a pussy forum. If any of this offends you, leave now. Welcome to the Jeremy Hansen Show. Hello and welcome to the Jeremy Hansen Show. I am your host, Jeremy Hansen, soon to be one of the most hated men in America. But that's what it's going to take. That's right, that's what it's going to take. Most of you remember the good old days, 2016, 17, 18, 19, into 2020. Unleash the Jeremy Hansen Show, the political pariah in the room. Yeah, back then, 8 million views a month is what we were getting through Liberty One TV. But you know what? I noticed something. I took a while off because I had to adjust. I had to think about what's really important. And here's what's really important. People are important. Okay? Men are important. Children are important. Women are important. But we're so skewed as a society right now, as a culture, we don't know which way's up and which way's down. As a matter of fact, the most efficient people that should be the beneficiaries of the good things that they create are the people that are hammered the most in this society. I'm talking about virtuous women. Virtuous women constantly get called names and made fun of because they're doing, in what I think, in my opinion, the right thing. Men, hardworking men. I see this all the time now, this workism. There's so much workism. You know what workism actually means? It's a bunch of really lazy people that have decided that it's not important enough to work anymore, and if you're a hard worker, you're a threat to their dream. Toxic masculinity. But we all know that toxic masculinity is in the news all the time. But what is it exactly? What is it? On this show, I want to talk about righteous masculinity because there is a big difference. I don't believe toxic masculinity even exists. Sure, there's some bad men out there, but are the things that they're portraying, is it really masculinity? Is it toxic masculinity? Now you ask somebody young today, what is a trait of toxic masculinity? And the women will first come out and say, especially the young indoctrinated ones, they come out and they say, well, they need to be emotionally vulnerable. No, we're men. Okay, you can't take a man and turn him into a woman. We are supposed to be stoic. We are supposed to be stewards of our emotion to do the proper thing. Of course, men have emotions. We feel things like pain, jealousy, anger, happiness, love. We experience a gamut. As a matter of fact, scientifically, they say that men are more emotional than women. But that doesn't mean we're supposed to show it. We're supposed to be natural leaders. We are supposed to be the people that are leading this country into the promised land, that take our families to heights that they never dreamed, that make our women feel so empowered by being good, loving, virtuous, feminine, and obedient to our Creator, that they never thought that they could be that loved. That's what a man does. When it comes to violence, men need to be capable of committing ferocious violence. Well, I'm not. Otherwise, what really are you? So if you can't commit violence, then you're not really a man. You're great. That just means that. And to virtual signal and say, well, it doesn't matter if you have. I'm a feminine male, and I'm not really. It doesn't matter into violence, and I can't really commit violence. It doesn't matter because you're not a threat. You see, a real man takes care of business. A real man is purpose-driven. He has goals in his life. He's going to get there. A real man is driven to succeed not only for himself, but the ones that are closest to him and the ones that he loves, period. But in today, today's society, there's something wrong with being a man. There's something wrong with being the best version of you in your masculinity that you can be. There's something wrong with that. Why? Because society wants followers. They want the, yes, sir, I'll do that, sir. Yeah, no problem, sir. I'll get right on it, sir. Those are the people they want. They don't want the people that think for themselves. They don't want the men out there that destroy the glass ceilings that are set there by the people that are truly the owners of the world. They don't want that. They want something that rolls along easy. They want something that they can control. And real masculine men are not controllable. That's why self-control for men is so important. Now, I looked at today, and I look at the things going on, and I'm telling you, folks, this show, I'm going to get a lot of haters. As a matter of fact, I might become the most hated man in the world. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. If I can make sure that I can make a difference, that my sons and my daughters are taken care of because people are acting the way that they were designed to act, the way they were created to act, that's going to get a lot of hate right there. Because you see, it's not just the progressives. It's this other side. Actually, there's two other sides. It's anti-Christians. It's anti-masculinity. It's anti-family. They're all coming after masculinity because masculinity is the only thing that stands in their way to total global dominance. Nothing we can do about it. They're going to take. As a matter of fact, I was looking this up. And, you know, I don't really care if you're a Christian or you're not. I don't really care. That's up to you. But to commit violence against anybody because of a belief system is wrong in my book, period. I don't care what you are. This is 19news.com. Anti-Christian violence is on the rise in the U.S. Just in Alabama, there's been 5 churches attacked since 2018. As a matter of fact, Judaism and the Jews are being attacked at record rates across the country. It's pretty bad when you can't even worship the way that you want to. You can't even live your life the way that you want to because your existence is a threat to them. Your moral culpability to something higher that you attain to be better for is wrong, and it's a threat to their way of life. Masculinity, again, it stands in the gateway. Who's the most hated man right now? Andrew Tate, I would probably say. Jordan Peterson's probably right there. Kevin Samuels was among them. Rest in peace, Kevin Samuels. But is Andrew Tate really a bad guy? Well, I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that Andrew Tate does or did, or some of the bombastic things that he says because that's the only way that he could get noticed in the beginning. If you notice, he's tamed things down, and that's the way that the media world works. They arrested him for human trafficking, supposedly, 6 different women. But then as he sits there, and he should be out any day, but as he sits there, all 6 women have came forward and said, hey, he's not guilty of trafficking. I was there on my own. I wanted to be there. This isn't the first time, and Andrew Tate said, hey, they're going to come after me. Why? Because I'm giving young men hope. I'm giving young men hope to be things that they couldn't have even dreamed of being today. Why? Because they're not supposed to be men. Do you know that young men have a suicide rate 38% higher than any other time in human recorded history today? And you wonder why. Why do you have kids today that are changing like that? Does it ever make you think like, hey, what's going on? And why would these kids be doing that? There's very good research that says it's because of these social dilemmas that they're facing, especially in the last 10 years. As a matter of fact, Berkeley did a study about it. What do they mean by social dilemmas? Could that mean that social dilemmas are part of them wanting to take the manhood out of masculinity? Could it be that? Could it be that our young men today have hopelessness instead of purpose? Could it be that they don't set goals? Could it be that they feel alienated by the opposite sex, even though their instinctual drive is to promote their own seed? Could it be that carnal? Could it be that low? Of course it is, and it could be. And what do we have? We have a battering ram of media shoving it down our young men's throats today that they are not supposed to be masculine. It is what it is. Now, Andrew Tate, he's hated. Oh, boy, is he hated. You talk to people on social media. Go on, TikTok. Go on Facebook. Put the name in there. Well, he was canceled on all of them, but people are still talking about him everywhere. But go into TikTok Live. About 95% of them are Andrew Tate haters, and they specifically talk about the tenets of Andrew Tate, his 41 tenets for masculine supremacy. What does he mean by masculine supremacy? Is he talking like, well, they're going to rule over the women and they're going to do this and they're going to do that? Absolutely not. It says right in his tenets. You tell me if Andrew Tate is wrong with his tenets. Number one, this is Andrew Tate. I believe that men have the divine imperative to become as capable, powerful, and competent as possible in this life. Don't see nothing wrong with that. Number two, I reserve my human right to hold my own beliefs and practice them as I see fit and allow other people the same right to believe and act as they wish. Freedom and liberty. Number three, I prefer loving, rewarding, consensual relationships with beautiful, positive, and virtuous women. There he goes talking about women, because why wouldn't a man want to be with a beautiful, positive, and virtuous woman? Number four, I believe men and women are different and that each has their own unique and important strengths and abilities. Wow. I wonder if any of those man haters out there, or these simp pussies out there, the ones that always agree with the women because then they might be able to slide in their pants. I still haven't decided yet. I don't know if simps are worse or if the new third wave, super progressive, anti-man feminists are worse. I don't know which is worse yet. Number five, I believe men have a sacred duty to protect and provide for the important people in their lives. Wow, I agree with the same thing. Take care of your wife, your children, your parents, your grandparents, your aunts and uncles, your in-laws, the people that have allowed you to become the man that you are, the people that you are supposed to love. Number six, I believe men have the sacred duty to protect the innocence and sanctity of their children and reserve the right and responsibility to raise their children as they see best to ensure their long-term happiness and success. Boy, I don't see him talking about his male children and dominance. Number seven, I believe that men have the sacred duty to raise strong, capable, and honorable sons. Number eight, I believe that men have a sacred duty to raise kind, feminine, and virtuous daughters. Number nine, I utterly disapprove of violence within romantic or familiar relationships. What does that mean? Because if you listen to people, they say, well, Andrew Tate's about misogyny and, physical abuse of women. Except all the women that say that they've dated him come out and say that that's not the case. He's never put their hands on them unless they wanted him to. And there was a couple that wanted him to. There was a video that came out, a role play video. That woman said, well, that's what I wanted. That's what I asked for. Number 10, I support good and honest governments who obey their own laws. Number 11, I prefer to only conduct business dealings with trusted and vetted brothers. Well, so do I, especially as you get older and you see that there's a lot of men that aren't men. They're con artists, they're scapegoats, they're assholes that will take advantage of their own mother to make a dollar. Okay, that's the type of people that we're dealing with. Number 12, I believe that a man has a sacred duty to hold true to his word and do exactly what he says he will do. Well, when I was growing up, that was very important. If you told somebody that you were going to do something, well, you better do it because your word was your bond. Your word was everything that you had. And today, I guess it goes back to the Nirvana song, who needs actions if you got words? Because that's the way that a lot of men live today. Doesn't matter what I said, or I'll get around to it. No. You tell somebody you're going to be there, you show up, you do your deal. You do what you say that you're going to do. Integrity. What's integrity? We could do a whole show on integrity, and I guarantee 80% of the young men that listen, they don't even know what integrity is. Number 13, I believe that a man's life is difficult and that he has a sacred duty to become strong to handle such difficulty. I believe that that's the truth. You do know that there are scientific studies right now that are proving that stressful situations actually break into your genetic code. That's right. That stressful situations break into your genetic code, and they use genes to complicate your DNA, to create new strands of DNA to make you more capable of dealing with that specific stressful situation. So if you're in a bunch of specific stressful situations and you actually do something about it to fix it, your body mends itself so it can grow to deal with the stress that you just encountered. However, there's a backside to that. If you don't deal with the stress and you sit there and you get on pharmaceuticals and you become a victim and you allow this long-term stress, it can actually do the opposite. It can change your DNA in a bad way. So the answer is get off your ass and do something if there's a problem. Refuse to be victimized. How many men did you know back in the glory days when men could be masculine that were a victim? That allowed themselves to be a victim? No. Number 14, I believe men are personally responsible for their actions and for the results they achieve in their lives. Kind of going along the same lines. Hey, you're responsible. We're going to talk more about that when this is over. Number 15, I believe in emotional control and the vital need to become disciplined and professional in all things. 100% agree with that. If you're going to do it right, then do it well. Number 16, I believe that men have the sacred duty to approach everything in life from a position of strength. Well, doesn't that mean that you're doing the right thing? Whether it's leading your family, whether it's relations with your wife, whether it's in a business meeting, whether it's holding yourself accountable in front of your community. Always approach everything from a position of strength. Otherwise, you have no business doing it. Number 17, I believe that all men have the sacred duty to become men of upright and virtuous character and live above all possible reproach. Well, all that is back in the early Christian days when you became a pastor, it was the same thing. You were supposed to live a life, even though you were still a sinner, you were supposed to live a life that you were clean enough that you were beyond reproach. Great advice. Number 18, I believe it's incumbent upon me to ruthlessly identify my own weaknesses and limitations, and I eagerly work to overcome them and become more capable in all realms. That's part of the problem with today. Nobody believes that they have any weaknesses. And if you do have a weakness, you don't fight through it and get better individually and get stronger from admitting your own mistakes and understanding where your weaknesses are, because knowing your weakness is power. But they don't teach that anymore. Number 19, I seek to improve my personal freedom to think, act, and live to my masculine imperative in all ways. That is our essence. That's what men are supposed to be. Number 20, I believe each man has a sacred duty to mold the physical body into the strongest and most resilient and most capable version of itself. I have to agree. I used to be a fat POS. That's what I was. Was it because I had something wrong with me? No. At the end of the day, what it really was I wasn't exercising enough to burn through the calories that I stuffed my fat face with. That's what it comes down to, getting off your ass and going and doing something. You take in 2,600 calories a day, go burn through 2,800. Go burn through 3,000. Get off your ass, put the remote control down, and go do something. Oh, that's so mean of you to say, Mr. Jeremy Hansen. Well, it's only truth. And it only stings if you know that you're guilty of the same thing. Number 21, I believe that men have a sacred duty to rigorously train themselves both physically and mentally every day. Well, I think that we're really lost on that one, considering men over the age of 45 have the highest suicide rate of any category or group of people in America. It's nothing today to see 5 suicides in the paper, on the local news. Hey, this person did that. It's actually so prevalent now, they don't even mention it much on the news anymore because it happens every single day. Why? Do they not have purpose? Are they hopeless? What are the things? Maybe it's because they're not able to act instinctually. We are animals. We are human mammals. We have things in us that can't be changed. So when these feminists come up and they say, well, you just got to act like this and you just need to be more in touch with your feelings. Yes, in touch with your feelings. I agree with that 100%, but not make them vulnerable to you. If I need to network with somebody, I do it on a needed basis. Feminine women network naturally, instinctually. That's what they do. You can't change a person. You can't change a man to be a woman. If you do, there will be catastrophic consequences. Kind of like 28% of our youth males are on some sort of pharmaceutical for antidepressant. Think about that. 28% of the children that you know are on some sort of pharmaceutical for antidepressant. Why? If this new progressive strategy of raising kids and how to be a better person and get the job that you want, all those things, if it's working so well, why do we have such a suicidal decay of our culture? Why is that? Why do we have kids that are doing this? If their way's so much better, if it's so progressive. The truth is, progressivism, at least in the last 2 decades, has not been progressive. It has been regressive. We have been going exactly against everything that we understand because it doesn't fit the social profile of the owners. Number 22, I believe that I have the sacred duty to only eat the highest quality foods possible. That's a tough one. That's a tough one for a lot of people. Why? Because high quality foods cost a lot of money, which, by the way, if you're a man and you're listening to this, part of your destiny is to be as financially secure as you can be. That requires not being lazy. It requires proper planning. It requires you to be at the best you can be in a masculine form. Number 23, I reserve the right to protect the sanctity of my bloodstream and make my own decisions about medical care and procedures. Well, we all know what that's about. Number 24, I affirm the importance of endlessly improving my mental faculties through diligent work, study, and practice. Nobody focuses anymore. Our minds are so busy. As a matter of fact, right now, some people are dropping off the podcast because they can't take this much information at one time. It's information overload. Why? Because all day, their phones ringing, their computers are going off, their TV's on, their XM radio's going. All of those things are distractions from the focus that you need to be focusing on how to make yourself better. Now, I'm not saying don't go on social media. I'm not saying don't watch some TV once in a while. But I'm saying get off your ass and do something with your life. I'm telling you, I believe that I had a better life before all this social media and crap came along. Because instead of seeing pictures on social media, you'd go visit people. Instead of sitting there and watching some soap opera, whatever it is, you'd be out doing something, masculine things. Going and working for something that you wanted, that you set a goal for to go do. How often do people do that anymore? We have a completely regressive downward spiral with men right now. Number 26, I believe the merits of healthy competition and constantly encourage all men to seek out competition to improve themselves. They've done multiple studies on men being competitive. And it starts from a very, very young age. Boys, they're going to play tag. They're going to have a race. They're going to do things. It's because it's the pathological channels of our instinctual abilities coming through, and we need to hone our skills. Number 24, I affirm the importance of endlessly improving my mental, we already went through that. I'll say it again, though. My mental faculties through diligent work, study, and practice. We're at number 27. I believe that the masculine brotherhood is essential to men's mental health, happiness, and success. And I relentlessly encourage men to meet together, train together, and work together. Real men. Real men. Let me say this now, and if you're a simp, you're going to hate me right now, but that's okay. If you have friends that are simps, that are weak, that are toxic, drop them. Quit talking to them now. The only way a man can save his friend is by saving himself first. Drop him. Don't talk to him. Get yourself around other real men. Get yourself around people that want to promote the goodness of the people around them, that don't want to promote some stupid social agenda that's hurting you, your family, your country, and your community. Number 28, I maintain the trust of my brothers through relevant silence regarding our most sacred and shared experience. What does that mean exactly? That means that you're not a snitch, okay? That means that people can trust you because you got some integrity. If somebody has a real problem, they can come and tell you their problem, and you're not going to go blab to somebody next door. You're going to keep it as a sacred vow not to do something against your brothers. Number 29, I believe in honoring my ancestors and living in a way that would make most of them proud of me today. Well, that's completely backwards today because the old people didn't know nothing. Just go on Facebook, TikTok, go over to Twitter, go over to any of these sites and see how bad they talk about our ancestors. Be proud of who you are. Forget this nonsense about, oh, you're white, you should be ashamed. No. Oh, you're black, you should be ashamed. No, I don't care what color you are, whoever you are today, if you're doing the right things to better yourself, screw them. They can go to hell because they don't matter. Don't feel bad about who you are. Don't feel bad about your ancestors. Your ancestors made the decisions they made and you had no input, whether it was good or bad. But celebrate who you are and where you came from. Number 30, I reserve the right to administer difficult rites of passage for our young men to allow them to earn the rank of manhood. Well, that all has to do with reaching goals. Reaching goals. Are you a man? Have you reached this? Kind of like the Boy Scouts. You're a Cub Scout, and then you move up. Eventually, you get to Eagle Scout. It's the same system. Kind of like Taekwondo. You start out at a white belt, you go to a yellow belt, you go to a green belt, all the way up till you hit black belt, and then you have black 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The exact same thing. Number 31, I affirm the importance and need for travel and adventure as a man. I agree with this one 100%. Take in all the knowledge and awesomeness anywhere you can go of different cultures. Take the best things with you. Become a refined person, a refined man, and have some adventure. It's the things that we need. You see, when they take these kids and they pump them full of pharmaceuticals, they say they have ADHD. What they're really doing is they're suppressing that child's will and instinct to go out and play, to be physical. Why do we have such a problem? Because they're trying to make us so controllable that they can't even let their instinctual play out. So ADHD becomes a problem. And the more they suppress it, the more it builds up inside of them, and you see them lash out, and the bigger the problem it gets. This isn't rocket science, and it's been studied for a long time. We know what it's there for. Go have some adventure. Go be physical. Number 33. I reserve the right to make the best choices I can at the time to protect myself and respect my mental health. Well, absolutely. That should be in anybody's best interest to reserve the right to do for yourself what you think you need for your mental health. Number 32, I missed. I seek to help men overcome poor mental health through embracing hard work, physical improvements, and shared masculine brotherhood. Those three things are very important. Embracing hard work. If you're a man and you're lazy, you're not really a man. I'm not saying that you like going to work, but I am saying you go to work and you work hard because that is what is required of you as a man. That's what you do to take care of your family, the ones that you love, the people that you surround yourself. And it also builds character doing things that you don't want to do. Number 34. Do good in the world and seek to help those less fortunate. Boy, you would have never thought that Mr. Tate would have said anything like that, do you? Do good in the world and seek to help those less fortunate. I don't care who you are, and I don't care what sex you are. It's a good thing to do things, if you can, for the people that are less fortunate. Number 35. I believe all men have the responsibility to lead and guide those they care about for the greater health, prosperity, and happiness. Goes without saying. Number 36, I choose to only interact with those who are respectful and civil to me in return for my own respectfulness and civility. Now, I think this one is another one that's, yeah, we know that. But do you? Because for a long time now, we're talking decades now, men have been getting bashed verbally, physically, through the court system, emotionally, mentally, constant. It's this constant bombardment. And because we were raised to, well, don't say anything, don't be an asshole, don't be a jerk, we don't. And it just keeps coming and coming and coming. And at some point, you have to be able to stop the onslaught to gain enough mental clarity to choose and decide what the right thing to do is. The truth is, sometimes you need to fight back. Sometimes you need to use violent aggression to stop people from hurting you. And violence, well, that has been suppressed completely, but violence is a tool to help you survive. That's why it's there. That's why we have elevated testosterone levels when we feel something's wrong. How many men have sat there and gone through something and walked out and their stomach literally hurts and they didn't say a word because I'm not supposed to say anything? Number 37. I reserve the freedom to speak and refer to others as I believe is the best and most truthful. Kind of like this. I think that gender and sex are the same thing, okay? And most of the world agreed with me until 2018. I don't believe that we have this huge problem in America that is somehow, biologically drawn, or mental health issues because of some weird thing that's in the water, or it's always been here. I refuse to believe that because there was history class before this phenomenon came along. But if I talk about that and we sit here and we discuss that, we're automatic bigots. We are automatic people that just hate them. Never once did I say that I hate them, but somehow they got that from this conversation. I don't agree with them. You see, folks, we went in this country to you must tolerate this in a myriad of things. You pick one. You pick one. Tolerate. Tolerate. Okay. Then it went to accept. Okay. It was no longer you had to tolerate it. Now you have to accept it. That was a big pill for people to swallow, and it started kind of an upheaval back then. And now, unless you're literally waving a flag for them and trying to progress their agenda, even if it's against you, you're a bigot. So it doesn't matter if you tolerated it, you're a bigot. Doesn't matter if you accepted it, you're a bigot. Because now you have to be part of the progress for them moving them forward, even if it's against you. That, ladies and gentlemen, is bullshit. That will never happen from me ever again. It doesn't matter what it is. If I don't believe in it, nobody's going to push me into a corner. Call me whatever you want. That is your right. That is your prerogative. But here's the thing. I don't give a shit anymore. I don't care what that person thinks. I don't care what anybody thinks of this podcast. I'm doing something because I think that I'm benefiting a group of people that are under the most attack right now. I think that I'm benefiting people that can rise up and do the right things and change their communities, change their families' lives for the better. Everybody. It might not be what you agree with, but that's okay. That's what I think. And it's time to get back to that again. If you're a man, quit kowtowing to people. Feelings are done. As a matter of fact, I remember when conservatives always used to say, well, facts don't care about your feelings. Well, now you have this super agenda of scientists coming out and saying, well, we have a peer-reviewed study, and people automatically, they're salivating for this information that they have. And I'm sitting back and I'm thinking, peer-reviewed. Okay, if Einstein was around right now, other scientists hated Einstein. They didn't believe in anything he said. And it took a while for the things that he said to come true. So back then, Einstein wouldn't have got a peer-reviewed study. What does peer-reviewed mean? Well, it's another person in your line of work that agrees with what you're doing. So if you have a system like the universities in America that have a political or social agenda that they're pushing, even if the science doesn't quite add up, they're going to peer review this study because it goes along with the progression of their social agenda, regardless whether it's real or not. And folks, there's a million things that we could talk about right now that you could say, yeah, you know what? I feel like that too. Well, start saying it then. The time for nicety is over. But you don't go pick fights with people that are less than you. And yes, that's a thing. There are people that are less than you. As a human species, we have value, okay? It depends on what type of life we're in. It depends on what scale of your life that you're in. But everybody has value added or value detracted for who they are, the choices that they've made, the things that they align themselves with. So be careful with all those things. Number 38, I reserve the right to choose my company and include only those whom I believe are best for my health, happiness, and success. Again, let me tell you, if you got friends that are losers, get rid of them. If you know anybody that's a simp, chastise them, shame them, and tell them, I don't want nothing to do with you. You're making it harder on us. You're making it harder on men. Men need to move forward. Men need to come out of their shell. Men need to stop being afraid to have the whip cracked at them because it's been happening from the beginning of time. Men today have become weak. It's time we take back what was naturally given to us while we were created and become the men that we were always intended to be. And who makes that harder? Simps. 39. I believe I have an imperative to only spend my time that I determine is beneficial, uplifting, and empowering to myself and others. You notice there's one constant thing here that we've always been told. Be selfless, be selfless, be selfless. You want to be selfless? After you find a good woman, not a low-value woman, when you find a good woman and you marry her, then that selfless version of you kicks in to a point. You can't help anybody unless you're helping yourself. Devouring knowledge, exceeding your goals physically, becoming the mind, the heart, the soul that you should have been to begin with. Number 40, I choose to only allow myself to be influenced by those who I believe have my best interest in mind. That is such a powerful thing. I want to ask you, folks, how many of you believe that the government has your best interest in mind? For you men out there, the women that you would like to date, is it that you want to get in their pants, or do you really think that that woman has your best interest in mind? What do you think it is? How many people do you know that you could point at and say, well, I know that they've got my best interest in mind? I bet you the list is very small if you sit down and you're honest with yourself and you measure the people that are around you, your friends, your family, your maybe, your romantic interests. I think you're going to find that that list is very, very small. And finally, number 41, each day I dedicate myself to create anew the greatest possible impact on the world and do the work necessary to achieve a greater masculine excellence across all realms of human endeavor. That's all 41. Beautiful. It's almost like poetry. It's masculinity words at their finest. But yet he's hated. He's hated. They make up stories about him. They tell lies about him. Why? They say that he's a danger to our young men. Go ahead and rewind it. Go back to number 1. Listen to all 41 again. You tell me if there's anything in these 41 tenets that are a danger to young men, that are a danger to middle-aged men. Tell me one of these 41 tenets that can't benefit society, not alone the men that are listening to them and actually using them. You see, that's what we have today. We have a group of people that hate men, that hate masculinity. And they're doing their best, using the levers of power, it's specifically in government, in institutions, in movements, in the feminist movement. What rights do men have that women don't? We used to have the argument that, well, women didn't get paid as much. And then, some people actually got together and they started doing studies on this and they found out, yeah, that's all bullshit. That women choose lower paying jobs because a lot of times men care more about money and women care more about time. So if a man can get a job for 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, and a woman can get a job for 40 hours a week at 8 hours a day, they value their time more than money, and men, in some cases, value their money more than time. It is what it is. Some women don't want to work in jobs like plumbing, in bricklayers, in mine workers, things like that. The ones that say that they're exactly the same as man, which we all know is BS. I'm not saying that women don't have value, and as a matter of fact, there's a lot of things that women can do better than men. But instead of embracing the way that we were created, this fight against Christianity is part of it. This fight against masculinity is part of it. And they're not fighting against femininity. They're changing femininity to being more masculine. Hookup culture. Oh, yeah. That's how guys are going to want you. Let me tell you something for the ladies that are listening. Men don't want sluts. Here's the truth, okay? Men will sleep with you. They will bang you till the cows come home. But that doesn't mean they're taking you to mom and dad. Okay, you can be skipped down the road, put in another county, and they don't care. Women think because they have this super emotional connection when it comes to sex, or at least they used to. That's changing slowly with this hookup culture, that somehow men have that exact same emotional response, and that's just not the case. Hence, the reason that they think that men and women are the exact same species. They don't think about men's hearts being 20% larger, that we have 15% more red blood cells, that we think with the opposite side of our brain, that our retinas on our eyes see different. There's a platitude of things that we could talk about when it talks about the difference between men and women. There are things that each are better at, and I'm willing to admit it, and I think any man that has been in any sort of long-term relationship will tell you the exact same thing. It doesn't make either one less valuable or more valuable. It does, however, mean that there's a natural sequence of things, and men need to lead. Women don't need to lead. Men need to lead. Men need to be the ones that sacrifice, okay? Because women, you know what? They choose who they're going to have sex with. It is what it is. And they think that they have something with that. But what they don't understand is that men control who they marry. Period. I know they've been trying to change that, but how many women have proposed to men? I would be so embarrassed if that happened. Now, let me give you the feminist version of men and supposedly what we are and why. At the top, they have Sigma. Okay, everybody thinks that it's Alpha, but it's Sigma. Now, this is a pyramid. They've got Sigma, then they've got Alpha. Then right next to that, they have Zeta. Then they've got Beta, Delta, Gamma, and Omega. Omega's the bottom. The sociosexual hierarchy. Most people think that Alpha is on top. And in reality, Alpha sits on the right side, Sigma sits on the left. Then there's Beta and Delta. Then there's Zeta and Gamma. And then on the very bottom, there's Omega. Now, some people are like, what in the hell are you talking about? Well, here, Alpha male is strong, determined, and clear about his goals. With this innate charm, he faces little difficulty attracting women. Unlike beta men, alpha men have magnanimous personalities and are highly confident and make the right decisions. I would say that they've tried to make the right decisions. Let's talk about a Sigma. Like I said, Alpha's on the right, Sigma's on the left. A Sigma male is a reticent alpha male, presenting misguided men a chance to be at the very top of this fictional hierarchy without the loud, boisterous character that an alpha brags. Well, what are the traits of a Sigma male? He's a nonconformist. He is self-sufficient and independent. He doesn't need the social hierarchy to thrive. He is adaptable. He has self-priority. He loves to be alone because championships slow him down. He doesn't need attention and strives to be invisible. Well, do you guys believe that? Alpha, let me give you that. He can control his emotions and knowledge, but he does have weaknesses. He doesn't let any one thing rule his life. He has a purpose. He holds himself with a strong posture. He is courageous. The alpha male is not fearless. He is not afraid to make decisions, say what's on his mind, or say no. He maintains his physical health. And I would say that myself, I sit somewhere between an alpha and a Sigma. I like time by myself. I don't need the social hierarchy. I've always been able to attract women. I've always been able to find money to be able to do things, to be independent. I acknowledge and know my weaknesses. I don't tell them to everybody, but I know them. I do have a purpose. I don't let any one thing rule my life. So is this right? Well, there's more to it. Now, beta. Beta male has a moderate approach to life. He's a nice personality guy, and that tends to get him by. Then, of course, he gets taken for a ride because of that. But typically, he is likable, and he is way more sensitive, less aggressive, and more grounded. I would say more grounded to feminism. That's what I would say. He is unpretentious, and he wants to spend time with females. He remembers your birthday. His main objective is not sex, yet he can be attentive in bed. He is communicative. He is creative. He is okay to stay at home. He's not blazed domestically, okay? Well, anything below alpha or sigma, you're shooting low. Delta. The delta male is the usual type of man in the sociosexual hierarchy. He is the spine of society and consists of a normal guy who shows up to his job, life, contributes to the community, and takes pride in it. And there's nothing wrong with a delta male. Not everyone is meant to be leaders, but you need to be the best version of you that you can be, always striving to be better. The 7 top traits of the delta male. He is most likely the like the archetype to move up or down in the hierarchy. He is the man who gets the work done. He would pride himself on competence. He doesn't want to lead, and he'll tell you that. He is disinterested in pleasing the alpha and or sigma. He desires respect. He is just successful enough with women to raise families and have children. The gamma male. The gamma male loves having fun, but doesn't shrug off his responsibilities simultaneously. He is adventurous and fun-loving and tends to get restless if left idle for too long. An alpha male may mature into a gamma male because gamma males are more refined. The 7 traits of a gamma male. He is knowledgeable, kind, and empathetic. He is a hopeless romantic. He believes in his love's depth, should value women, and he puts them on a pedestal. He misunderstands women and struggles in the dating marketplace. He adopts secret king delusions of grandeur. He is conflict and failure avoidant. He would lie to himself. I don't see alpha men turning into this. Omega male. The omega male is a fun-loving but non-aspirational individual who is reluctant to grow up by embracing classic social imperatives like marriage, family, and holding down a regular job. You know the class clown, you know the guy that's always going to the bar and saying, "Hey, buddy, let's go." Well, that's an omega male. He has peculiar interests and unusual pursuits. He is helpful, sincere, and friendly. He isn't really competitive. He is satisfied within his own means. He disregards others' opinions of him and doesn't really care. He is an introvert, and most of the time, he is relaxed. And finally, we're to the Zeta male. The Zeta male has rejected the traditional expectations of being a man, a provider, defender, and protector. He rejects stereotypes and doesn't conform to conventional beliefs. He refuses to be seduced and shamed by anyone and confidently strides to the rhythm of his own drum. He's a highly independent man. He would find it challenging to fit in with anybody. He is self-aware and knows what he believes. He authentically lives life and is true to himself. He doesn't give an iota of a thought of what others think or their judgments. He has a potential to become highly successful in life, but rarely do, and he is not distracted by social pressures. All you guys listening, do any of them sound familiar to you? What do you want to do? What is your purpose in life? I do believe the reason that we have the big problem in the male community today, the high suicide rate, the marriage failures, the men that are financially struggling constantly, I do believe because people don't know how to have a purpose. And before you know your purpose, this is never taught in school, and fathers rarely talk about this anymore. But guys, you got to own your shit, okay? You have to own who you are. You have to own your life. Remember this, even if something happens in your life and it's bad and it's not your fault, even if it's not your fault, it's still your responsibility to fix the thing that went wrong in your life. So even if it's not your fault, it's still your responsibility. You cannot have a purpose until you step up, you take control of your life, and you put yourself in control. If you become a victim, if you start blaming others, that's creating a victim mentality. And when you have a victimhood mentality, that means other people have control over you. That's what toxic people have. That's what weak people are. If you think that you're going to be a victim, you're always going to let other people have control of your life until you man up. And I mean that in the most pure essence and that I can say, until you man up and take ownership of the bullshit you pulled, of the mistakes that you made, and even the successes that you've had. You will never be able to have purpose. Remember this, success breeds success, but success was built on failure. Everybody today, when they finally figure out what they want to do, they're afraid. And what are they afraid of? Usually men aren't afraid of the dark or other men or things like that. Usually men are afraid of failure. They're afraid of stressful situations. They're afraid to get up in front of a crowd and speak. But until you can do those things and be confident within your own skin, you will never be able to achieve what you should. You will never be completely happy. You have to be the person that puts in the work, that puts out the sacrifice, that's willing to accept the problems that are in front of them, that destroys life in a good way. You have to be that person. If you want to grow as a man and you want to reach your ultimate potential, no matter who you are in that gamut, you have to be willing to do the things first. And that means accepting responsibility for everything that you've done or anything that is now your responsibility that you didn't do. Now, this is the first show. We're going to get a lot more in depth with things like this. We're going to talk about things like, does body count matter? What makes a good woman? Who would be a good wife? What makes you a good husband? What makes you a poor husband? What makes an absolute disaster to pick as a wife? When is it time to find a wife? When is it time to date? Do things for women like a degree or a good job, do they actually matter? What is the value of a man? What is the value of a woman? How do you distribute respect? How do you require respect? All of those things we're going to talk about and more. But we need to get into it, and we need to understand that masculinity is not the enemy. Toxic masculinity was a made-up term that somebody decided to start using by saying that men that don't have feminine traits and use them enough are toxic. If you're a man and you're not emotionally vulnerable, you're toxic. No, you're a stoic man doing exactly what masculinity has taught us for thousands of years. And that's what I got to say about that. Thanks for listening to the Jeremy Hansen Show. We will be back later this week with another show. Ponder on this a bit. And if I'm wrong about something or you think I'm wrong about something, tell me in the comments. Remember, Spreaker, iTunes, Apple, Podchaser, all the normal places, Pandora, Spotify, all those, until they start taking us down. They're going to do that eventually. But it is what it is. I love you guys.